From Acapulco, Mexico, this is Anarchast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. I have a great guest coming in. I think he's at the last two Anarchapulcos. Kenny Palurintano. Kind of hard last name to say. Kenny Palurintano. He runs Kenny's Conscious Kitchen. He's actually doing some really interesting stuff. He's sort of a vegan chef. We had a lot of vegan people at Anarchapulco last year, and one of the most popular restaurants was a vegan restaurant. For those of you who aren't vegan, there's also a great steak restaurant at the hotel. I'll probably be at both. I'm sort of I change my diet all the time. We'll see what happens. But he's actually going on quite a journey. He's seems to always be going on some sort of journey. He goes to a lot of festivals and stuff. Very interesting guy. He's actually doing something he calls the Road to Anarchapulco right now. He's just about to head off to see Adam Kokesh at his homestead. Then after that, I think he's going to go see people like Derek Bros and the Houston Free Thinkers. He's traveling around a lot, and he's making his way down to Anarchapulco. So Kenny, I wanted to have you on, and we've met at Anarchapulco. You're a cool guy, and talk about some of the things you're doing. But before we get started, we got to ask you, how did you become an anarchist?
Well, it's an easy question, really, because I've always been an anarchist. I didn't always use the word, but I was kicked out of a lot of schools for not being okay with somebody saying, well, that's just the way it is, or that's the rule, or I started using the word, I read Emma Goldman's Anarchy and other essays, and it was just like a collection of her stuff, and it really framed it in a new way for me, because whenever I'd heard the word was just the media way, like video like the WTO riots or something, just a bunch of black bloc guys. And so that new description of it really opened up a lot for me. And then I got into Free Domain Radio, and that guy. But then it was just really easy because it all made sense right away. I'd already understood, I just didn't have the correct philosophical terms yet, and didn't realize there was a whole bunch of other people that like to think about a world where everybody acts that way.
That's great. And I know you travel around to a lot of different festivals and events. What's that all about?
Yeah, for the last 16 months I've been on the road. It actually started just after I got back from the first Anarchapulco. I went down, and I'd been in the same place in Portland, Oregon for like a decade. I'd left a couple times for little trips, and I was there, and I'd gotten into activism over the last couple years a lot. And when I came down there, and just the experience of traveling like that, to go meet a bunch of like-minded people, and hanging out with Rob Hustle, and hanging out with Orion, and meeting Dana Martin, and just all these people that I watched on your show, and I watched their other videos, and it was huge. And so I got back, and staying in the same place and having a job just wasn't going to do it for me anymore. So I quit my job, and I went to the National Rainbow Gathering in South Dakota, and that was my whole plan, was just go there. I had $200 in my pocket, and I caught a ride out of there with some people, and then landed in Denver after a while, and that's where I met Elias Clay and We Are Change Colorado, and the Star Tribe Alliance, and just a bunch of amazing community out there, and that was huge. And then from there, just hopping. I've been to Jackalope Fest, Alma's thing, and obviously Anarchapulco. We're coming up on the third year now. A couple rainbow gatherings, different intentional, prayerful festivals. A lot of them. I do a lot of festivals where it's alcohol-free, drug-free environment. It's as well as ones like Rainbow, where besides alcohol being right outside, you can mostly do whatever you want in the gathering. Just meeting the musicians and the organizers and all the folks making everything happen, and trying to work as a networker between those things, connecting communities with people who want to go live off-grid and have some skills but don't have the money to buy land, and connecting artists with events and companies that'll put them on stuff, and yeah, just kind of fall in the flow, letting the world just show me where the next place is to go.
Yeah, that's great. And last year you were quite instrumental in helping get Elias Clay down to Anarchapulco, and that was great. Hopefully we're going to try to get her back again this year in 2017. We already have Eric July and Backwards, which is going to be totally awesome. And I'm actually working on a couple of really big acts, like very famous acts that I don't want to mention at the moment, or still in discussions with them. But we're thinking about doing a full-on big concert here with literally thousands of people from Acapulco going to the concert. So, and it's actually at the best concert venue in Acapulco. It's, I think, Ricky Martin's performing there in a couple weeks. It's a world-class outdoor amphitheater, so it could be really amazing. So that was great that you hooked us up with them. And I know you're kind of doing something right now. I know you're a vegan chef, and heard some amazing stuff about the food you cook and things like that. And I know you're also working on doing a little bit of a fundraising you call the Road to Anarchapulco.
Yeah. That's kind of how I travel between these events, is cooking food, for the most part, at least. There's I think this year alone, this summer, I basically had 7 festivals where I was running the kitchen, and then a couple where I did other things like working in the office and stuff. But yeah, right now I'm kind of mixing those things up again. I'm doing a little bit of the media side and then a little bit of the cooking food. So I'm going up to Adam Kokesh's build party, which is north of here, and I'm going to cook up there for about a week, and then I'm heading over to Houston for the Houston Freethinkers, Derek Rose's, for the Community 12. This is their 12th year doing a big free music festival in town where they bring out all the local musicians and a lot of anarchist friends, and then the community comes out for free to check out the musicians and gets introduced to tons of activists and anarchists, agorist vendors, and just really lure them in and just introduce them to the side of the community that we want them to be supporting. And then I'm going up to cook for the grand opening of a retreat center up in Montana, and then out to Oregon, Washington for a couple months or about a month to mostly interview different intentional communities in the area, because that's where I've got all these places that I've been telling people about since I started traveling, because there's a few that are right outside of downtown Portland, where there's 20 or 100 people living together in one place, growing the food there, solar panels for most of their power, so they're relatively off-grid, but people that want to have jobs still have jobs, and people that want to not have jobs don't have jobs, and it's a cool mix, and there's a lot of that going on out there, so I want to document that before heading south towards Acapulco. And I got one stop along the way with Rob Hustle, who I met at the first Anarchapulco, introduced me to Frank and Ken Shamrock, who obviously, like, they're names that I've heard since I was a kid, and now I'm like chatting with them on Facebook, and I'm gonna stop. They're restarting the Shamrock Boys Ranch, which is like a home for at-risk young men. That is where they were adopted. They were adopted by, I didn't catch his first name, but the original Shamrock who ran the place. And they're going to start that up, but they want to make it an off-grid, self-sustaining village type setting, but it's just there to support young men in those situations. And then coming down to Acapulco, and excited to cook for Nathan and Lisa for January and February there, and maybe come cook for you guys, and really just replug in with that community that has grown in Acapulco over the last couple of years. It was amazing being down there for a month last year, and just hanging out there's hangouts every Monday, I think it was, and then people were always just getting on the group chat and like, hey, so and so and I are going to the coffee shop over here if anybody wants to come hang out. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing that's coming together.
Yeah, and yeah, you say you might be cooking for Nathan Freeman, who runs the Anarchapulco conference, and I talked to you. I also am interested in having you come over and at least teach our chef a few things. The Mexican, well, I'm sure there is some Mexican chefs who know a little bit about vegan or vegetarian cooking, but mine has absolutely no idea. You know, I'm kind of into all that stuff. I actually was vegan for a couple of years. I was vegetarian for 7 years, and it's a bit of a long story, but I found that a very meat-based diet just worked best with my health. But I think I was also totally doing it wrong. When I was vegan or vegetarian, I didn't really like vegetables at the time. I actually like them quite a bit more now. So I was mostly eating like spaghetti with margarine, potato chips. So when I switched back to the meat, and then I felt really good again, you know, I think it does work well with my body, but I know I can feel good on a vegan or a vegetarian diet. But if no one's cooking it very well, it's just not very enjoyable, and I'd just rather not. So that's why I'd like to have you come by and teach our chef a little bit about how to do some of these things, because he just has absolutely no idea. When I mention it, you know, just mentioning these sort of vegan sort of things, he's like, I don't even know what you're talking about. So that'd be cool to have you down. I know you're going to also be in a house here with a number of other anarchists.
Yeah, we're putting together, we don't have like a solid name at the moment, but it's like the Anarchapulco Creatives House or something. Like, there's some, I don't know, we got Benny Wills and Derek Bros and Kurt Robinson, who performed at the last two Anarchapulcos, a couple songs, and Aaron Battle of the Paradise Paradox, and myself. We were getting a house right next to Juan Galt and a few other folks, and we're gonna have it set up where there's at least, you know, one spot for interviews to happen at any time, basically, and maybe at least one spot for like roundtables or debates to happen. So it's like just ready to go for people to be filming. So there'll be a bunch of media folks there. And I've got a few more that I haven't, you know, locked in yet. Either they're not sure they're coming or they are, but I haven't confirmed them for staying at the house. But yeah, I'm excited to bring everybody into one container and really like maximize some content creation and some ideas. You know what I mean? Like, you get people like that together in one place and they're going to come up with a lot of solutions for things.
Yeah, that's cool. Are you vegan yourself?
So I generally cook what would be considered vegan food, but for me it's mindful eating is what I practice, and for my body that means no animal products besides honey. But for some people, you know, like if there's a lot of genetics that goes into what you should be eating, and like if your family, you know, if you're the first generation to come down from Alaska, like Inuits, in the near the North Pole, then you're going to need to eat a lot of fish. Like, it's not going to happen for you on all plants. You're not going to get the amounts of certain things that you need because they don't really eat plants much. You know, it's like fish and seals. And then, you know, people from places in lots of Central and South America or over in like India and stuff, you know, they've lived on a lot of rice and legumes for thousands of years as like main staples. So they can go to totally vegan very easily. And it's about eating clean food, you know, like non-GMO, not full of nasty pesticides, herbicides. Like, if there's anything Monsanto around it, you don't want to eat it. So eating clean food and then just listening to your body. You know, if you eat something and it has a negative reaction, stop eating it. It doesn't matter if that is a plant or an animal product, just stop eating it. Your body doesn't like it. And that, for me, you know, through practicing that, I just got to basically every plant besides soy works for me. And honey and bee pollen are really good. And other than that, I don't eat any animal products.
Yeah, for me personally, I've tried pretty much every diet there is, I think. I've literally tried them all. I did Atkins once, which is basically like no carbs, and I did it really hardcore. Whenever I do things, I always do it really to the max, and I didn't eat any carbs for like 2 months or something, and it couldn't have been more than 1% body fat. You could see every rib, you could see, I actually looked okay. I wasn't super skinny, like I still had muscle, but like just no fat whatsoever. So that was interesting, but it definitely wasn't healthy. I didn't feel really healthy by the end of it. It didn't feel healthy, but if you want to lose fat, just don't eat any carbs for a couple months. It's just like unbelievable. I've tried everything. I was vegan for a couple of years, and that was actually kind of hard because I was also traveling a lot at the time. I was running an internet company around the world, and you go into some city and good luck trying to find anything vegan at all. So again, I was eating like, ramen with, nothing in it. Like it was just like, I wasn't doing it correctly. And I found that I didn't feel very good on it. But again, I totally did it incorrectly. I was not eating anything healthy at all. I was just eating things that just didn't have any animal products. And then I actually went and I went full just meat. And I guess they call it sort of the paleo sort of diet. And that actually really feels good for my body. I could literally just wake up and eat a steak, have maybe some vegetables on the side or something, and that's it, and feel great. But however, I know if I ever lived on a farm, I would never eat meat again. Because, I don't actually have to kill the animal or see it being killed and all that kind of stuff. I know if I had to do it, I wouldn't do it. So I'm being a little bit, I don't know what the word is. I guess I'm not being totally, well, I guess I'm sort of denying the fact that some horrible stuff is happening to some animals so I can eat it, just because I enjoy eating it and because I feel good when I eat it. So I'm really into like a lot of this vegetarian and vegan stuff, but the issue has been trying to get food that makes me feel good and also is enjoyable, because you don't want to just be eating stuff you don't enjoy all the time. My life, I'm already unhappy enough as it is. So that's one reason that I really want to, hopefully, I know you're going to be busy while you're down here, but hopefully we can get you in for a few days or something to teach our chef some stuff, and we could see if we can get some good vegan food here in the house. That'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just about learning replacements, basically. You know what I mean? Like for eggs, you can use applesauce, or you can use mashed banana, or you can use soaked chia seeds or flax seeds, or for anything there's replacements. If you want to have like pulled pork or like any kind of like carnitas thing, you use some jackfruit. If you want a burger, you use lentils and something else to stick it together, whether it's a kind of potato or sweet potato. It's just learning little tricks. And then you can make the same recipes basically, but instead of the meat, it's just this blend of something else.
Yeah, we've been, for a while there, my chef and my driver and stuff were buying some of our groceries at Verde Vegan, which was that very popular vegan restaurant and sort of small grocery store here in Acapulco. And they were actually giving me hamburgers all the time, and I didn't even know it was veggie burgers. It was literally like a month later, someone just mentioned, oh, you like those veggie burgers? Like, this is a veggie burger? Like, I couldn't even tell the difference. So that's really cool. If I can sort of change my diet without even noticing, great. And if no animals are getting hurt, even better. I don't want to see it. If you watch these videos of some of these, meat packing plants and stuff, it's horrendous. I know that we buy a lot of the stuff down here. When we do buy meat, we're buying it mostly from local sort of farms and stuff like that, which is a lot better. But it's still kind of, if I could change it, I would. Easily change it. That's the thing. I'm just so busy. I just can't focus on just changing my diet right now. I'm trying to free all the humans first, then I'm going to work on the animals. But I'm glad other people are out there working on trying to help the animals as well, because it's absolutely disgusting what you see, some of this stuff.
Yeah, it's horrific. There's a guy, Gary Yarefsky, that does all sorts of videos and talks all around the world and stuff, and just kind of like shows some of these videos and lays the stuff out really plainly. Like, you can use different language for it, like a slaughterhouse, and like it's a lot of genocide, and it's not against humans, but it's the mass murder of specific species, that isn't how I got to eating this way. It was just with my body. But since I stopped eating meat, the conversations I've had with people who really try to defend meat eating is actually what drove me to being like a moral vegan as well, because they're just like, oh no, we can kill them, so we should be able to eat them, and we've been doing it for a long time, so we're meant to, and we've got canine teeth, and I'm like, these are not the teeth that like a lion or a bear has. Like, just because we call them canines doesn't mean they're these giant fangs.
Yeah, what do you think about, like the history of human diets and stuff? Like, have you looked into that? Like, because you hear all this stuff that some people say, oh, we were meant to be vegetarian, or we're meant to be carnivores. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, my understanding is basically just, humans are good at adaptation. That is our biggest strength. That's human nature, as far as I'm concerned, is just adaptation. We're going to adapt to whether it's physical, mental, emotional, like, we're going to adapt to it, or, the diet, like, not make it because But in the old day, like the old pre-agriculture, they ate a lot of plants because plants are around and there's lots of them you can eat. But they also ate meat, but it was rare too. Like people that do the paleo thing, especially from like reading a book, often miss the fact that when you were eating meat at that point, it's because you ran down a deer. We're one of the only animals that can sweat. A lot of mammals can't sweat; they have to like pant, or they have an even less effective way of cooling off. So if you run after a deer, someone who's in good shape, and you chase a deer, eventually, if you can keep track of it, it will fall over, it'll collapse before you will get to that point, long before. And that's how we used to catch things before we had like weapons. We didn't have bows and arrows back in the day.
Man, so, if I had to do that to get a steak, I don't think I'd be eating much steak.
Exactly.
Chase a deer for 4 hours. Yeah.
Yeah. So we definitely ate meat, but it was also rare, and you exerted a lot of calories to do it too. It wasn't something people were eating every day, just automatic, whether from their own farm or from a store where it's just there available. And it certainly wasn't something we were getting, packaged and processed and fed a bunch of soy and corn and other crap. It's even if meat is which there's lots of studies show like less than 10% animal protein in your diet is not so bad for your body. But when you go over 10%, your cancer cell growth rates grow exponentially. So whether you're looking at it in terms of the animals that are being killed or the effect on the body, like it's a personal thing, and we can obviously go either way. And if you eat trash food with either kind of diet, you're not going to feel very good. If you're eating a lot of McDonald's meat stuff, and then you go to a vegan diet and you start getting the McDonald's fries and salads, like I've met vegans who are like, just the ethical vegans, or don't hurt animals, but they don't care about their own body, and they just it's kind of sad to me because it's like, oh, you're like almost there. It's like people that almost get to anarchy. They're like, okay, you realize that all of these giant banks and corporations and the government are all one big thing. It's the same people running a lot of this stuff. It's the same system of violence. But somehow you're not seeing that next little piece of like, okay, so let's move away from that. Like, we don't need that. We can always do better. Just because it's something we did a million years ago doesn't mean that we can't figure out a better way. Like, I certainly hope we can improve.
Yeah, totally. What do you think about when you some of the more hippie types? I know you hang around with a lot of those type of people, and I have no problem with those kind of people at all. I actually like hanging out with hippies quite a bit, but they talk a lot about how if you're eating an animal that was killed in like the really horrible, they lived a horrible life. They're in this little cage or something for their whole life. You could just imagine it's just horrible. Some of the conditions. Then they get killed in a really horrible way. Some of the sort of more hippie types say that sort of bad energy of this thing was just had a horrible life actually gets transferred to you when you eat it. Do you believe in any of that?
I don't know that I believe it, but it's definitely something I've heard and I could see. I've grown plants. I've grown a lot of cannabis in my apartments and stuff over the years, and you can tell with plants the vibes that they're getting, whether it's me. I always played music. I would play Led Zeppelin, or I would play classical music, or I'd play music for my plants, and I'd be in there with them. And I know other people who do that, and you can feel it. You can feel a definite difference when you take that in versus something that is produced on a large scale just for profit. Nobody cares about it. Somebody's just like, okay, let's maximize this. Let's get a giant farm of some kind and let's produce a bunch. And you can taste that difference in foods that are grown, and you can feel it in medicinal plants that are grown too. At least in my experience.
Yeah, I partially asked because I've had Kobe steak a number of times. They actually have a restaurant here that has it. And it's just a total night and day difference. And that for people out there who don't know, apparently they massage the cows, they play them opera music. They have a decent life. And you can actually, you can taste the difference. I don't know if that's because of what they're eating or what the conditions were or whatever, but it is interesting to think about.
Yeah, it's one of those things that whether it is or it isn't, it doesn't hurt to have it out there as a possibility and keep it in mind. It's intention and is an important thing, whether it has any metaphysical effects or not. just the intention that you put into things, because it changes how you act, and it changes the outcome of the situation.
Absolutely. So I guess you're heading off to Kokesh's place right now. Is there anything else that you're doing that you want to talk about?
No, I guess really the only thing is just the road to Anarchapulco. I've got a generosity campaign, which is it's an Indiegogo thing with less fees for like personal campaigns when you're not trying to start a business with it. Just to cover some travel expenses to hop between all these places. Made some shirts with the logo and the repping Anarchapulco on there, and on the front it says "Eat like you love yourself." A little thing a friend of mine came up with for me, and I'm just like $2,200 I'm trying to come up with to make this little piece really easeful, so I can focus on the work instead of having to throw in days of work, trimming for people or find some sort of income gathering while I've got events back to back.
Yeah, so for people who are interested, we'll put the link down below. It's on generosity.com. And some of the things that he's offering on there is to be your personal chef if he's in your area. Yeah. And I see you've got Portland, Denver, Montana, Acapulco, all on your upcoming list. So if you live in any of those areas and you're interested in maybe just having Kenny come over and cook up some stuff for you or teach you how to make some really good vegan food, check him out. Yeah,
and actually I have a prize on there too for a reward. For a $111 donation, we'll do an hour-long over Skype or whatever cooking class. You can pick something that you want to learn how to make a vegan version of, or you can pick like a style of cooking you want to learn, like basics of curry or whatever, and we'll get online together, and I'll give you a little class.
That's great. And I definitely want to have you when you're down here in Acapulco, at least for a day or two if you can. So I don't know if you want me to do it right on this page or you just want to do it direct. It's up to you.
We can just do it direct. Bitcoin's actually what I use a lot more.
All right.
This is just, like an easy platform for doing it. If you go to my Facebook page, I've got my Bitcoin address, my Dash address, and my Steemit address. I love cryptocurrencies more than Federal Reserve notes whenever possible. Yeah, that's been awesome. That I made more money creating content in the first month I was on Steemit than I had passed through my hands in like the year prior to that. Just living like really minimalist lifestyle.
That's great. Yeah, I noticed the payments are down quite a bit lately, or maybe it's just me.
The value of Steem, it's like 13 cents instead of like over $1.
Yeah.
But it'll probably bounce back, and if not, there's a fun run, and yours network's coming out, and there'll be other ones, like it coming out too, I'm sure, once the door's been opened.
I think it will bounce back. I wrote about this on Steemit a week or two ago that when I first got on it, the total market capitalization of Steem, the currency, was over $200 million. And currently, if it's at 13 cents right now, it's probably around $10 million or something. So for what it is, I think it could really see a bounce around these levels at some point, because at $10 million, you'd actually have ownership of a piece of a network that could overtake things like Facebook and Twitter and all these sort of things in the next few years. So I wouldn't be surprised if some venture capital type people start getting into it at sort of these levels, or if not, who knows, it might just die. I always said that's possible, but I'm glad that you and a number of other people made some money on it. That's great.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great experience, and it showed people something new, and so now we know better versions will come out either way, because that's just the way that we are.
Yeah, it changed the game quite a bit. So even if it doesn't succeed, there's going to be other ones that will probably. It's fascinating. Actually, Dan Larimer is going to be, he's one of the founders of Steem's going to be out at Anarchapulco. Kenny's going to be there. If you need some cooking done, contact him and so many other people. And we'll play a promo video for Anarchapulco right after this interview to check it out. It's at the end of February in Acapulco. So Kenny, any final words?
No, just just thank you so much for having me on, and thank you for having this show. I really appreciate it. I've learned about so many new people watching Anarchast, and it's been a great experience. And thanks for creating Anarchapulco. That has absolutely changed my life. Both years.
Well, thank you, and thanks for coming the first 2 years and coming again this year, and hope to see a lot of other people down here. There's just, as Kenny pointed out, there's just so many amazing people. It's really almost mind-blowing, really. And so if you do come down, try to come down for a week or even more if you can, because there's so many things going on and so many get-togethers and so many interesting people. So definitely check it out. So we'll play the promo video for Anarchapulco right after this, but we'll sign off for now. So that's it for Anarchast, your home for anarchy on the internet. Peace, love, and anarchy.
By the 21st century, the statists had taken over the world. After 9/11, the savage union of the war on terror and the war on drugs squelched the last flickers of freedom. Central banking-backed wars raged. Violence, imprisonment, and theft had become the norm. Not many could see any other way. Hope vanished. But then, when things looked their darkest, something happened. A surprise, and just in time. From the valleys, fjords, and suburbs rose the Anarchists. From the cities, factories, and the dark web came the anarcho-capitalists. And from every other nook, corner, cranny, and drum circle, the voluntarists. Some said it was too little, too late. The war had already been lost. You can't change the system, they cried. And the anarchist answered, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. One rule to heal the world, one rule that binds them, one rule sets their moral compass and aligns them. The N-A-motherfucking-P. And with that, they gather again, as they do every year, in Acapulco, Mexico, this coming February for the 3rd annual Anarchapulco. Speakers include Larkin Rose, Jeffrey Tucker, Jeff Berwick, Adam Kokesh, Milo Yiannopoulos, Lauren Southern, Luke Radowski, Julia Toriansky, Roger Ver, Rick Falkfinger, Dana Martin, Judd Weiss, Max Egan, Josie Wales, That Guy T, Anarchy Girl, Sasha Daygame, Barry Cooper, Mark Victor, Trace Mayer, Ian Freeman and Mark Edge, Rosalind Ross, Tim Moen, Dan Dix, Dale Brown, Christopher David, Stephanie Murphy, Derek J. Freeman, Derek Brose, and many, many more. The headline musical act will be Eric July and Backwards. In and around the event will also be the Dollar Vigilantes Internationalization and Investment Summit, Change Media University, and the world's largest ayahuasca ceremony held by Barry Cooper, Ayahuascapulco. Plus, Terry Brock's Fund Your Freedom entrepreneurial course, Adam Kokesh's homesteading workshop, Sasha Daygame's Anarchy in Relationships course, Dana Martin's Free Your Family workshop, and much, much more. And it will all be held the last week of February 2017 in Acapulco, Mexico at the 5-star Mundo Imperial Resort and Convention Center. Go to anarchapulco.com to stake your place in history. The world might just never be the same. Evacuate the state. Brave the future.